Welcome back. My name's Cherry. I have a cup of tea. I suggest you get yourself one and we'll answer some questions. The tea I have is a fruit tea. It is a summer berry sangria, I think it was called, and I meant to bring up the little thing to talk about it, but I forgot, so you'll just have to... Oh, well, I'll make it up. You know what? I'll tell you what it tastes like. I know it's got hibiscus in it, so it tastes a bit like that. That's it. Okay, I feel like I'm out of practice, even though it was only a week ago that I did my 5 fun facts. But here's a different background, as you can see. I thought I'd try something else out. Bit more personal. This is my bed, obviously. These are my books, which I plan to rearrange at some point. They're a bit of a jumble right now. In my last place I lived, I had them organized by color, but I haven't had the energy or the time to do it yet, so... Hopefully the light doesn't change too much. The sun is probably going to move around, so I apologize if that does happen. It's getting kind of warm up here, and I don't want to open a window because there's construction outside and it's really loud. So I'm probably going to get really sweaty answering your questions. How's the framing? My hair, I desperately need a haircut. Everything's the wrong shape right now. It kind of looks like a pancake. Like the sides kind of flatten out and spread out, and so if I don't have the framing quite right, it looks like I've got like this shelf of hair, which I guess I kind of do. I'm stalling. I feel like this is going to be like a test or an exam, which is really, really silly because all your questions were amazing, so thank you for that. My cat wants attention as always because I'm talking. I'm probably going to end up slouching a lot because without back support very long, I fatigue very quickly. I'm stalling. I'm really stalling. Okay, let's do it! Your questions were so good. I'm just nervous because I decided not to prepare whatsoever, not to think about the questions, to just choose which ones I liked and not think too hard about the answers. I think a lot of people finish their Q&As with a quick fire round. I'm gonna start with a quick fire round because I feel like it's gonna be a good warm-up. Now these are questions that when I was going through them I thought probably had short answers. I guess we'll see because I like to ramble, as you've probably discovered. This reminds me there are things I need for the quick fire round. So these things don't usually live here. Oh, look at that, I'm showing my pens to the world. That's attractive, isn't it? That was very graceful of me. Quick fire round, let's go. Friend of Phil, or PHL, from Instagram asks, what was your favorite lens for SLRs? The lens I used for the longest time and barely ever switched out. I've always used prime lenses, let's just get that off the bat. 50 f1.4, and then I got myself the 85 f1.8, which I loved. I loved this lens so much. A lot of my nature photography is with this lens. Probably haven't seen that. Now I use a Micro Four Thirds camera. My favorite lens for that is the Leica, that's dirty, Leica 25 f1.4. You can see that. Love it. And on the camera right now is the 14mm that I talked about in my recent vlog. I will put a link to that up in the eye up here. Rebel Wheels NYC on YouTube asks, are you a whovian? So, am I a fan of Doctor Who? And if so, who is my favorite Doctor? Okay, here's the thing. I really enjoyed Doctor Who. I grew up with it. I loved it when I was a kid. I think it was a British staple in the 80s. I don't remember that much of the original series. Actually, a few years after it got big, I wasn't sure if I would like it because I'm kind of iffy on remakes. But then I eventually caved and watched it, and I did really like David Tennant's Doctor, but he annoyed me a lot by the end of his run, so that was interesting. And then, oh, I'm so bad with names. Who came next? What's this? I'm just gonna look this up really quick. I might cut that out because this feels like cheating. This isn't an exam, but it feels like it. Matt Smith. Okay, here we go. Let's get back to the questions. Matt Smith. He's my favorite Doctor by far. I have not actually seen much of the most recent Doctor. He didn't jive with me. I watched one season and then I stopped watching. I just something about that season I didn't enjoy, and so I haven't actually watched it since. So I'm not a huge Doctor Who fan, but I loved Matt Smith's Doctor so much that I felt like a Doctor Who fan during his run. I loved every way he portrayed the Doctor. To me, he felt like the Doctors that I grew up with when I was a kid, or like my very vague memory of how they made me feel. 18 a Bear on YouTube asks, you said you collect sweets. If you had to pick your favorite 2, what would they be? I'm terrible with picking favorites. I'm so bad with picking favorites, especially food. Food for me is a very mood-oriented thing, so it really depends on how I'm feeling at the time. So let's do my 2 favorite right now. Off the top of my head, oh, there's so many. How can I pick 2? Okay, I'm just gonna pick my 2 favorite chocolate bars. How about that? Toffee Crisp and Double Decker. Zen Mama asks on YouTube, if you could travel anywhere in the world without concern for cost or accessibility, where would you go? I used to travel a lot for work, which was great. I got to travel quite a bit of America, which was fun, because that's a very different place for me. Where would I go now? You know, I grew up in the UK and I didn't have enough money to travel around much. If money was no object and accessibility was no object, there's probably 2 places I would love to travel around. One is all the cities in Europe that I've never got to visit, and also just spend more time in the cities I have. Yeah, Europe. I would travel around the cities of Europe, even though that's where I'm from. The museums. I miss the museums of Europe so much. Nature-wise, I would love to if accessibility, obviously, and money was not a cost, the Himalayas. I don't know what it is. I would love to go to the Himalayas. The Slaughterhouse Fishies on YouTube asks, do you have any favorite birds you'd like to talk about? Maybe a top 5. And Veronica on YouTube asks, what's your favorite bird? I remember an Instagram post on gulls. Super cool, but are they your fave? Again, I'm really bad with favorites. So bad. I can't... Everything changes with my moods. My favorite films, my favorite birds, my favorite animals, everything changes depending on how I'm feeling. So that's a bit silly, but no, gulls aren't my favorite. I think gulls are massively misunderstood, and I think that people don't give birds that they see a lot of and consider a menace their credit. So gulls, corvids, especially crows, pigeons, I think people don't understand or respect why they behave the way they do. And a lot of that has to do with us, so that's a whole other story. My favorite bird in Canada, or let's say Vancouver and the west coast of BC, is probably the northern flicker. I love that bird. It has a very special story to me. When I first moved to Canada and I first moved to a neighborhood in Vancouver called Kitsilano, I stumbled across this bird while I was walking down the street one day, and it was on the ground, but it looked like a woodpecker, and I was like, what the hell's that? And what's it doing? And then it flew off, and as they fly off, the eastern kind have yellow under their wings and tails, and then the western kind have bright orangey red. It's incredible. When they fly off, it's just this burst of color as they go, so that was really special. I kind of dashed home and looked up what they could possibly be. It took me a while to figure it out, but I love them. Next local bird that I love is the Steller's jay. I have a tattoo, unfinished tattoo, right here. You don't see those too much in the city. In fact, rarely. I would say I've seen them a handful of times in Vancouver, but I love them. And then, I don't know if I could choose specific birds, but rather species. I love raptors. I got to work with some raptors a few years ago on a falconry course before I got too disabled to do it, which was, I'm so thankful I pushed myself to do that and that I did it, and I only just managed it because it was at the start of my disabilities becoming too severe to do that kind of physical thing. So I feel really lucky that I managed to do that at that time. So raptors, I loved working with them. Obviously I love them in the wild, but working with them felt really special. There's like this connection. This is supposed to be a quickfire round. So I'm gonna end it there. Even though I could talk about birds for hours, so maybe I'll do a video on birds one day. And then Veronica has some excellent other quickfire questions, which is, do you get super sad if an animal gets injured in a movie, book, show, more than if a person does? Yes. Yes, very much so. Well, it depends on the animal, but most animals, yes. Yeah. Do you believe in ghosts? That's a complicated one. Rationally, no. I have a very torn, split mind. I have a really rational part of my mind that tells me things like zombies are never gonna happen or impossible, and then the other half is like, what if? And ghosts are the same. Ever since I've been a kid, I've been torn that my rational mind is just says, no, no ghosts, not possible. And then the other part of my mind, it's not even half, it kind of comes and goes, believes. But in a very spiritual way, I think, but also in a way that sometimes spooks me out. You mentioned a lot about visual art and being a visual person. Do you also have a similar thing with sound stroke music? Yes, I do. Or I don't know if it's full-blown, what's that word? Oh, can't think of the word. I'm gonna pop it up on the screen because I'm gonna look that up later. But yes, I do. I see colors in relation to sounds and music. Sometimes sounds and music will kind of pull images into my mind from nowhere, kind of like smells do, and it has to do with nostalgia, I think. Yeah, vaguely yes, but it's hard to be specific about that. Okay, that was the quick fire round. That obviously was not as quick as I thought it was going to be, so maybe I'll split it into two. Okay. I am rambling.